on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another installment of the Rufus Rundown podcast. Once again, been a little bit since we have hit the airwaves, at least from the YouTube channel, from Spotify, from wherever you do tune into the podcast. But small time away. This is less than the bigger gap that I probably left over the summer. So trying to still stay consistent with weekly installments. I mean, that's what we're shooting for. I'm trying to get 2 in this week at some point, just because I'm not going to be able to react to the Monday night game until either Wednesday or Thursday. And then, I want to talk MLB playoffs as well, too. But, still working towards that, considering the work schedule. But, I mean, I guess it's a good thing considering that, my work is also putting me on the airwaves as well, so you can still hear me throughout the weeks and throughout the time that I have been away. If you've been tuning in on ESPN Plus or even Nesn Plus, which we're going to pretty much get right into. But before that, still too, guests are lining up as well too, so I'll be able to bring on some guests to kind of spice it up a little bit. I mean, I do enjoy bringing on guests, not only just athletes, but other people that do enjoy watching sports and working in the sports media world as well as I do, which of course making those connections through the broadcast that I've done. I'm only going to be able to bring more to the table in terms of that. So really looking forward to bringing on more guests as well in the future. But let's get right into it in terms of where I have been and why I have been away. But like I said, super busy with work. Working at Holy Cross a ton, including my first play-by-play performance with Pete Roy. It's been a real true pleasure working with Pete Roy and working with everybody at Holy Cross, because doing the behind-the-scenes stuff has been a lot of fun too, and it gives you greater appreciation for what's going on with the production. I truthfully don't believe that everybody that watches sports really understands what goes into that production, and how almost at times, maybe I'm not giving enough credit to broadcasting itself, but I feel like it's almost more difficult to be a director behind the scenes and be doing a lot of that behind the scenes work than it is being a broadcaster. We're not just calling it as we see it, because there's a lot of research that goes into it. In terms of like the moment in time that it goes on, I would say that it is more difficult to direct and do everything than it is to broadcast. Of course, the research is part of broadcasting, but it's not difficult to do research if you just do research. I mean, it's very straightforward. So calling the game, you're only going to get better the more that you do that. That's something that I am working towards. So as long as you have the knowledge and you've done the research, I feel like broadcasting is up. I'm not saying that broadcasting is easy overall, but it's almost easier than a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on. So, I've earned a lot more appreciation for that in terms of how difficult it is to work behind the scenes. I ended up directing an event. I might have cut to a basketball commercial during the middle of a volleyball game like 6 different times, hitting the wrong button. But, it's a work in progress, and I'm, really thankful for the opportunity to do it. But like I said, first play-by-play experience was really good. So if you're looking to find out where you can find these games, a lot of them are on ESPN Plus. The one more recent was Nesn Plus, which I'll get into. But if you're going to follow me on all my social medias, you'll be able to find out. I posted on LinkedIn, X, or the X is the new Twitter, Instagram. So pretty much I'll have all my socials plugged. I think it's official Lucas J. Ferreira, and Lucas J. 16 for my personals for Instagram and X. You'll be able to look my name up on LinkedIn as well, too. We'll be posting a lot of that. And then obviously all the Rufus Rundown stuff will be posted in the bio as well, too. It's at Rufus Rundown, just about anywhere where you can find when I'm going to be broadcasting this games, when you can catch me on the air more so than just here. Like I said, trying to make it more consistent here as well. But like I said, we had the opportunity to get on Nesn Plus, first time being on TV. I've been on local cable access, which I guess is TV, but truthfully, on a Nesn platform. Honestly, leading into it, there's been so much with Nesn 360 and the subscription-based stuff. And I'm thinking in my head ESPN Plus, so I was thinking Nesn 360 the whole time. Nesn Plus, a TV channel. I'm sure everybody knows that, or anybody that doesn't can now look it up and find it out. Had no idea. Growing up, I did. Watching because if the Red Sox were on one channel, they'd put the Bruins over on Nesn Plus, or whichever game was starting second, they throw over there. Which one wasn't the playoff game, or which one was in the regular season. They would mix it around, because if the Red Sox were in the playoffs, they'd be on Nesn, but if you wanted to watch the Bruins, they'd be over on Nesn Plus. Totally forgot about that. So going into the game Nesn Plus, I honestly thought it was just streaming again, and then I realized that it was going to be on TV, and it was actually on TV in terms of the opening cut. It was a game between UConn, who was ranked, and the Crusaders. And I had the pleasure of working with John Avino, and John Avino was great to work with. Certainly wasn't my best performance, and the audio was a little bit low too in the beginning. I mean, I'm going to be my own worst critic when it comes to anything that I do in life. So pretty hard on myself. But at the end of the day, I was on TV, and I think I did handle myself pretty well, all be told. But, watching it back, considering I'm not a true hockey guy through and through, trying to become that, living in the Northeast, obviously, there's going to be some big opportunities considering how well the Crusaders have played. But, yeah, working with John. John was great, great play-by-play guy. We were able to shout out Chris Heatsu on the air as well, too. I only worked with him for a brief time, but he's on his way to ESPN working as a PA radio announcer, so that was pretty cool to shout him out. There was a lot of cool events going on. Interviewing coaches was cool. Absolutely bombed a question to Caston Summer, the assistant coach. Terribly sorry for that. Considering the whole thing that went down, and it's a super awkward question. I'm probably gonna have to email Caston to just to truthfully apologize for it. What went down is that Matt DeBoer, who is the son of the head coach of the Dallas Stars, he plays for the Crusaders, super talented sophomore forward, and he scored a goal in the home opener last season. He was the first rookie to do it since Caston did it when he played for the Crusaders in 2012. So I was trying to kind of rewind history to that moment, kind of put him on the spot with it. He took it out. I kind of rephrased it as first goal. It was super awkward, super bad. I should have stuck with the present game, and I maybe tried to do too much with it. And Caston was like, yeah, no, my first goal was scored against UConn, which actually kind of worked out in my favor because they were playing UConn. Actually worked out very, very well, but again, totally butchered said question. And, if Caston's out there listening, totally apologize for that in the spot that I put you in. But totally think that I redeemed myself with the Coach Riga question, which I've posted on my social medias as well, and I'll clip it into the podcast here as well.
Coach, that was an exciting hockey game. I know at the end there it might have gotten a little too physical for your liking, but what were your overall thoughts about how this one played out, obviously coming away with the win?
I don't mind physical. I just don't want to get penalties and have to kill penalties against first-round draft picks. But other than that, we battled hard, and we just found a way. We had a ranked team coming into our rink, and for our program to grow, we just need to learn a way to win these games. And we're certainly, got some things to improve on, as you saw. But we'll learn from it, take our win, and move on.
Coach, obviously been a while since the two teams had met, but a really fiery contest out there, very physical. What does it say when you go into them to play tomorrow, too? You have to respond and have to collect your team. What is it like going into a game like that tomorrow, and how do you get your team back together for it?
Well, I think it's their home opener, and I think it's going to be packed and loud, and it'll be our first road game for some of our freshmen that played big roles for us. So we're going to have our hands full, and now they're going to be a little bit angry and have a little purpose in addition to what they already had. I thought they played fine tonight. They played hard, and we just found a way to get it out there. But we're going to have our hands full tomorrow against an angry team.
All right, Coach Riga, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on a good start to the season and a big win over UConn.
Thank you. Take care.
But yeah, getting to talk to Coach Riga was super cool. Thought it was a good question considering how physical the game was, and we talked about it throughout and how what their expectations were going forward. Watching the game, seeing how physical it was, how they are going to be able to respond, and they did. They responded with a 2-0 victory with an empty net goal scored. Clearly, I think the Crusaders, if they're not ranked yet, will be in the national conversation to be ranked. I mean, they have to be. I mean, they just swept the number 20 team in the nation, and they were already receiving votes. So I'd be completely shocked if they weren't ranked going into this week. So we're going to have to see. But again, truthfully blessed to have this opportunity, not just to work this game, but just overall being able to do what I've been able to do at Holy Cross. I've had countless opportunities there. I'm hoping that it opens the doors to other opportunities at other schools and so on. I've been on the grind to do that, making a lot of connections. I mean, a lot of the behind-the-scenes people, doing a lot of different things and working in the field has been truthfully a blessing for me. Also having the people around me that support me in what I do. I'm sure, again, if you follow the social medias, you'll see the image on my social media of my girlfriend ironing my clothes. I mean, if you had told me a couple months ago that I have a girlfriend, I probably would have called you crazy before I started dating my wonderful girlfriend, Selena. But if you had also told me that she would be ironing my clothes, so I'd have a suit jacket ready and dress clothes and tie to go on Nesn Plus later that night from my college dorm, I'd have called you crazy, and I could have imagined myself here like someday, but I just didn't think it was going to be now, and like just how quickly it's come together. It's been an absolute blessing, and I'm just so happy to be able to do it and be able to share the experiences with any followers and listeners. We continue to rack up more and more listeners here, which is really cool. So, and I'm going to have even more stuff to talk about considering the college sports that I am following, and hopefully the opportunity to work for different schools pops up as well too. Again, still need to find time to do this, but overall just super, super happy with how everything's going. But like I said, Crusaders not taking just one but two over number 20 UConn this weekend, which means that when I do get back on some more hockey calls, certainly could be receiving more national attention. I'm not saying it's going to be on Nesn, but hey, I mean, hockey game of the week, UNH upsetting BU, and those are schools that I make calls to as well. But yeah, I mean, if the Holy Cross continues to play the way they're playing, maybe going to get some more national recognition and maybe be on some more, maybe even a more nationally recognized calls. So that would be a really unique experience. But overall, thought that they played really well. It's not that UConn's a bad team, and they were ranked 5th in Hockey East, ranked 20th in the nation. They were really, really good team, and the Crusaders, they had taken a lot of penalties. But once the Crusaders turned it really physical, they turned up the pressure with their forechecking for sure, which I thought was a big boost for them, and really a really good performance overall for the Crusaders. Coach Rieger was certainly happy about it. Like I said, that interview was really cool to be able to do. I wasn't even prepared to know that we were interviewing coaches during the game, which is why I apologize to Cast and Summer for the butchering of the question that I did have. But overall, cool experience. Really, really, really good play from the Crusaders. I'll actually take a brief look to see, the hockey rankings, because I'd have to, if they're not out yet, that's one thing. But when they do come out, there's just no way that the Crusaders don't crack the top 20. So I'll have to take a peek here and see what we got going on in terms of the overall rankings, if they have updated them. Obviously, yeah. So we're still looking at UConn there. Prior to, there's a lot of teams in front of Holy Cross that were receiving votes, including some teams in that Atlantic Hockey Division. But like I said, you sweep number 20. There's really, you have a lot of upsets up top. You really have to think that there's going to be some shifting there. So we'll see. I'd imagine Holy Cross is going to sneak in there, but then again, you never know. But overall, really, really fun weekend. It was a pleasure working with John as well. I'm looking forward to the future at Holy Cross and hopefully some more schools down the road. Now I want to address some of the NFL. So, new segment, call it 3 Up, 3 Down. I know it's a baseball reference, but it's going to be my way of not going through every single game. It's basically it's a form of power rankings for me. I'm not going to give you the top teams or the bottom teams. I'm just going to tell you 3 teams I thought, shifted up, they're trending up, and 3 teams that are trending down. This is a sports podcast, so I may as well give it a sports reference with 3 up, 3 down. So again, going to react to Monday night, sometime Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see when I can line that up and hopefully have a guest for that. I'm trying to bring on one of broadcasting partners from the Brockton Rocks, Chris Kostic, looking to bring him on. And Joey Medeiros, who I've also done play-by-play commentary with, and obviously some athletes that I'm trying to bring on as well, to trying to restore the show to the pace that it was at, especially considering how much traction I've picked up in the sports media world overall. Maybe some of those athletes too. I'll have I have contacts to SIDs now, and I'm just open to work with that as well too. But first and foremost, with the 3 up, I think a team that is trending up right now, and I don't know how they're doing it, the New York Jets. They've picked up back-to-back wins, including one on the road against Denver, which again, like Denver, not a good football team by any means. Very, I think, poorly managed, poorly coached at this point. And defensively, they have struggled overall. But yet still, when you have to travel to Denver, go to the high altitude, you're on the road with your backup quarterback, still trying to make an offense that doesn't work, at least the passing offense for that matter. But they also just beat a very talented Philly team. Now, Philly hasn't looked like their Super Bowl appearance last year. They haven't looked like the team that was that good last year. All the undefeated teams are gone. The Miami Dolphins of old can, all crack their champagne and celebrate. But, I mean, the defense continues to make plays for this Jets team. I mean, they had that interception late, followed by the rush in by Breece Hall. They are 14th in scoring defense, considering how poor Zach Wilson can be at times in terms of turning the ball over. But, the less that he turns the ball over, the better it's going to be for the Jets. If he can continue to do what he's doing with the running game and just be a game manager. I mean, because Aaron Rodgers is out there throwing the ball before games. It's crazy to me. I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to recover from that Achilles injury, but it looks like he's on a pretty good track to do it. But I think Robert Saleh can certainly coach at this point. I think it's certainly proven that he can coach. They raced an 11-point deficit against the Eagles. He's a defensive coach, obviously, defensive background, and he's just hanging tough, hanging in there. There was some culture issues early on in the season. At least that's what the reports would have you to believe. Breece Hall wanted more touches. Now I think there's less of a pitch count on him, and he's kind of full go. They're just making it work right now. And if Zach Wilson continue to not turn the ball over, this defense is absolutely legit. And it's going to have to work through some of the offensive struggles. But, I mean, again, they have an identity. They play really solid defense. They can run the football. Now, they have a gauntlet of quarterbacks in their own division, and they're going to have to find a way to beat the Patriots that second time around and break that streak, and looking like it's trending that way for them to be able to do it. But, to be 500 where they're at going into a bye week, I did not see anything for this team after Aaron Rodgers went down, and then you lose to the Patriots, and that's where you really thought it was going downhill. But as of late, you've seen that their defense is absolute playmakers, and how sustainable that is, I'm not sure. But I'm here for it. I think they're trending up. The Bills haven't looked like, true dominant force that we're all expecting them to be, but they still pull out the win against the Giants, which we'll eventually get to covering as well. But their defense can continue to make plays the way they have, and Zach Wilson doesn't turn the ball over. They have a chance. They do truthfully have a chance to sneak into the playoffs at some point if that's where they get Aaron Rodgers back somehow, some way. I'm here for it. I think that's exciting. So like I said, I don't know if it's sustainable, but back-to-back wins, a road win in Denver, and then beating a really good Philly team while, putting their identity, out there. They run the football. They play solid defense. They have playmakers on defense, and they were even without Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. So, again, they've dealt with injuries, which is why I think Saleh can truthfully coach and has dealt with the adversity well. And, again, developing an identity, defense, and running the football. And if they get a playmaker like Rodgers back, I would have to say that you have to seriously look out for this team come playoff time. The next for the 3-up, moving up in the power rankings, team number 2 in the 3-up, the Detroit Lions. 4 wins in a row. And this is a team that last year very well could have made the playoffs if they could have, if the Rams could have knocked, and Baker Mayfield could have knocked Seattle out of it. Could not do it. But when you look at the rankings for this team, they were top 5 in offensive yards per game, top 5 in points per game as an offense, and then defensively they're top 10 in total defense per game in terms of defensive yards per game, and they're top 10 in scoring defense, and they have a positive turnover differential. It meets a lot of criteria. When you look at the Super Bowl criteria, at least for me, they meet the formula. They have a solid quarterback that can make plays. Jared Goff has been more than a game manager. He's truthfully been making throws. He's looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, not turning the ball over, not throwing picks, and looks like a totally different quarterback. He looks like the one that took the Rams to the Super Bowl, but looks even improved upon that. They have the formula. They have a solid quarterback, good quarterback play. They're not turning the ball over. They have strong offensive line play. They're one of the best offensive lines in the league. They can run the football. They're good on third down, but also they protect Goff, and that's been a huge plus for them. They can rush the passer and get pressure with 4. Now, they're not ranking too high in terms of the turnovers they force, but they still have the ability to force turnovers, and they have that positive differential, which trends them in the right direction. A team with a positive turnover differential, it's going to trend them. Strong line, positive turnover differential, can get pressure with 4. They have defensive playmakers in the secondary, but overall, with Aiden Hutchinson and the rest of that defensive line, they do not have to send simulated pressures to make plays. They've been able to get pressure with 4, and I'm sure they're going to continue to bring more and more of that heat. But overall, the defense was an issue last year. It is totally improved, and I think this is a true Super Bowl contending roster that they have there, especially as the backfield gets more healthy. But overall, with that O-line, you're going to be able to make plays work. They have gritty guys. I think Dan Campbell really has it together over there, and you're getting the most out of Jared Goff. He's protected. You can move pieces around. You have playmakers. You've dealt with injuries once again. That's an adversity you have to deal with. But I just think overall they have a true formula to go to a Super Bowl with a top 10 quarterback, an O-line that can protect them and can run the football and get the push that they need. They have the creativity in terms of offensive play calling. They can rush the passer and get pressure with 4, and they're able to make plays on defense to force turnovers when they need to. I think they have absolute gamers there, and I think that the Detroit Lions should genuinely in a position to take that next step, especially considering how bad that division is there up north. I think they might even be able to get themselves a first-round bye at the rate that they are going, and I'm all here for it. I'm here for the Detroit Lions, where they had Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Unless my Saints run into him in the first round, I'm absolutely here for it. And the last team with a 3-up, again, we're talking defense here. The Cleveland Browns. The defense is legit. Now, it's a given that San Francisco dealt with injuries to Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in this game, which I really did think hold the San Francisco offense back. But they are top 5 in scoring defense. They are the top defense in terms of total defense, in terms of yards per game. Again, the 49ers are only a Jake Moody field goal away from taking this one, but they held Purdy to 125 yards, under a 50% completion percentage. They got to him 3 times. They're without their starting QB. They didn't go with DTR. They went with P.J. Walker, and P.J. Walker even turned the ball over a couple times. And I don't believe that Deshaun Watson is truthfully the answer for this Browns team, but overall he's more talented than the other guys they have there, and he's a playmaker. And he might just be enough to, again, sneak them into the playoffs. Again, I know a lot of teams are going to be cluttered there at the bottom that don't have true quarterbacks, but they have these defenses. They have the talent around to maybe sneak into a wild card. And who knows at that point? I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know if this level of defense is sustainable with quarterbacks that turn the ball over, with quarterbacks that aren't super talented, without true playmakers, I think, on the outside. I don't know. But they have a strong O-line, a strong defense, and they have a quarterback that was really once great and really was once top 10. I don't know if he's ever going to get back there. I don't think he's ever going to get back there. But he might be able to do enough to get this team to a winning record, considering how positive the defense has been. Again, this is just really, San Fran should have still won this game, but coming off of the dominant victory that San Fran had, they travel, an undefeated team, and the Browns, really were able to just stifle a really, really hot offense. Of course, the injuries came around, which might have changed things, but it's not to discredit Brock Purdy either, because he found a way to get his team into a winning position. I know a lot of people have said that he's only a product of the system, and I don't totally agree with that. He's still young, was definitely underdrafted in the draft. I could put his team in a position to win. Moody just doesn't come through with the field goal when the time came around to it. I'm not going to put that one on Brock Purdy, but I really am impressed with the defense overall from Cleveland, and I think that the future could be bright for them if they're able to just find a way to sneak by a couple of these games in the North. Of course, it's just a tough division to be in, but if you can get Deshaun Watson back and healthy and at least performing at a decent level, just can't have him turning the ball over overall. But again, this is another team that hasn't really forced turnovers, which is going to hurt their differential. But this is a defense that, truthfully, at least the defensive front, and with Myles Garrett included, can make plays. They can get pressure with 4, which I think is a huge deal. Again, another question of whether it is sustainable or not. But a defense like this that makes plays can certainly be interesting, and it's when it's holding the top offense down the way it did. I think the outlook is positive moving forward for the Cleveland Browns. It's going to come down to quarterback play. But even with 2 turnovers from P.J. Walker, with the 2 picks from P.J. Walker, they still were able to find a way to take down the 49ers. So I still think an impressive performance overall. So that's our 3-up, our 3 teams moving up. How about our 3 teams moving down? And I didn't think that this team could move down anymore considering the last 2 weeks, but it just continues to get astronomically and diabolically worse for this team. And it's just, my oh my, the mighty have fallen. I mean, this is one of the greatest sports franchises of all time, and now we are just looking at an absolute disaster in every facet of the game. It's the New England Patriots. They've been out-talented, out-drafted, outplayed, out-coached just about every matchup this season outside of that Jets game. I mean, good Lord. I mean, Belichick cannot take GM responsibilities anymore. And it might be too late for him because it is bad. This is a bad team. And I truthfully don't believe that Mac Jones is the problem, but he's definitely not the answer. So, like, again, you want an answer. You don't want to be like, oh, he's not the problem. I mean, there's other things they have to address first. I mean, QB is not the biggest issue on this roster. They cannot protect. They cannot really run the football that well either. They're just not protecting enough for Mac Jones to get, I think the lowest average per attempt on passing plays. They are an undisciplined football team, and they're not dynamic enough. They are not dynamic at all. They just don't have dynamic playmakers. They cannot get downfield. They cannot scheme open downfield. They cannot run the ball consistently, and they are just overall not good enough. There's a lot of departments where they are just not good enough in, and they are undisciplined. Their special teams have been undisciplined, which is just so uncharacteristic of a Bill Belichick-led team. Again, I don't think Mac is truthfully the problem, but he's definitely not the answer at this point. Maybe he could fit in with another team, but I think his time in New England is up. But they really have no other answers there, so it's going to have to fall upon him, which is unfortunate. Again, that drop by Devontae Parker is just a microcosm for their life after Brady. They are not special. There's nothing dynamic about them, and they are not the same. Those are plays that would be made by literally name any player. Brady makes that throw. It's just caught. They go on the 2-minute drill, whatever, and it's just not the same electricity, not the same energy. They have a lot of cap room coming up, and they're going to have a top draft pick at the rate that they're going. They have to make a decision about the GM and coach as well, and it has to be soon. Like, I'm not saying you get rid of Bill Belichick as a coach of this football team, but there has to be some decisions that are made that I don't think he can be the GM moving forward. I know Teddy Bruschi was saying, like, just coach his ass off and make it to 6 or 7 wins and step away. I'd love to see it too, because I'm not here to slander Bill Belichick, but I think it is clear at this point that we might lean the way of Tom Brady. I mean, those are great defenses, and a lot of special things happen for those teams, and the defenses were really good around Brady, but they weren't always. He was not always surrounded by weapons, and he was just a special player. But I don't want that to continue to slander and take away from Bill Belichick, even if it leans the way of him a little more. But it's going to continue to hurt Bill's legacy if this is the way that the Patriots go down. And I'd hate to see him step away after a 2-3 win season. But that is what they're on pace to do. That's the rate that they're going. I'd love to see him get 6 or 7 and step out. The record really doesn't matter as much as where his legacy is, because right now everybody's thinking. They're thinking it, and some people are probably going to say it for clicks, but it was Tom Brady's dynasty, and Bill Belichick was just there to watch. I'm not saying it, but I'm telling you right now that people are coming out with it. People are going to continue to think it, and if this continues to go downhill the way it is, it's going to be brought up more and more. He doesn't deserve that, because I don't think that is the case. So overall, you have all this cap room. You're going to have a top draft pick. You have to get it right. If it's still Bill in charge, he certainly has to get it right, because I don't want to say you have to fire the guy, but you will if it doesn't work out. Overall, you just don't want to set up more and more astronomical failures if you take up all this cap room and make the wrong decisions with that, because you look at the signings like Jacoby Myers, where they don't sign him and he catches the touchdown against them in this game. McDaniel's getting the better of Bill Belichick again as well. And then you pay Juju that contract. Now, Juju, physically might be running into trouble with his knees and just isn't worth the contract that they're paying him for the same value that Myers signed. So overall, the GM decision is going to have to change. They just have not drafted well offensively. I think defensively they still have too. I don't think they've drafted that well offensively, and they're going to have to find dynamic playmakers in this draft. And overall, probably at quarterback, Skarnecchia leaves. The O-line really hasn't. I'm not saying it's one of the worst units in the league, but I mean it's certainly, again, not the answer where it is right now. So it's just mediocre all over with an undisciplined team, which makes it this bad. I just think there's a whole lot of not good enough. I'm not saying they're atrocious, but not good enough, overpaid, and is out coached, really. I mean, unfortunately for Bill Belichick, he's been out. Like, he cannot coach himself out of the situation because he just doesn't have enough special out of the quarterback position, or any position for that matter. The McCourties of the world leaving, Brady's of the world leaving. You just don't have it. You don't have the couple of pieces you can build around with a lot of guys that maybe aren't good enough but are disciplined enough. You don't have the discipline, you don't have the talent, you don't have the overall talent from certain positions that you had before, and the formula is completely broken. Like, the Patriot way can only work in so many facets of the way, in so many situations, and they do not have enough to support that. Next up on the 3 down, again, this is another team I didn't think could really move any lower on the list, but I don't know. It's tough to say. just how bad it's going to get. But the Giants is such a bad unit overall, and the wheels are coming off the wagon. You can see the frustration from Brian Daboll. That headset, man, they're going to... I'm sure he doesn't mind with his salary that he's getting paid by the Giants, but he just continue. I don't know if he's breaking headsets, if they're breaking that, or they deserve the company that makes those headsets deserves true praise, because he's been humming those things around when things go wrong. I know there's a backup QB in yesterday, but that clock management at the end of the half is atrocious. You have to find a way to get points there, and you just cannot have it. You cannot have, I don't care who you are, third string, fourth string, fifth string, you cannot have that type of mismanagement and miss out on points there, because at the end of the game there, the difference between going for a touchdown and going for the field goal to win it is there. And you very well could be walking away from winning that game being, I think it was, 15-point underdogs was what they were going into that game. They covered the spread, so you have rundown picks, which weren't that great. But you cover the spread, but again, still on the losing end of the game. They really, I think, should have won, because we're looking at a Buffalo team that is not nearly as dynamic as they were anymore. That's another team I I was ready to put on this 3 down, but they won the game, and I really, again, it moves them down, but not as much, I think, as bad as the Giants have been. And I know they struggled on short distances throughout the game. He said that on 2nd and 1 and 3rd and short, 2nd and short, that they've been stopped a couple times. But how do you not give it to Saquon on that final play? He's your best player. You don't have Daniel Jones, the athlete at quarterback, where you can make plays with him on the goal line as well too. You have to get it to Saquon on that final play. He's the best athlete. He's the best player in your team. You have to put it in his hands by any means, unless there is an undeniable factor that they are going to stop him and they have loaded everything up. You have to either use him in a means to create something for something else, or you have to find a way to get it into his hands. They did neither. I think I forget who they tried to go to there, and you can make the call of pass interference. But again, if you're begging for a call there, you just did not play well enough in the game, and that is the bottom line. And again, they've lacked creativity. They've lacked, again, the O-line is an island of misfit toys as well too. Andrew Thomas got hurt. And I can't say much about Evan Neal as a Saints fan, because Trevor Penning has been so bad. But again, Evan Neal has not been that good. Justin Pugh comes out there and says, off the couch where he's from, hasn't played since week 6 of last season after tearing ACL. And even then, when he spent times with the Giants, was not that solid and never really lived up to expectations. And it's funny for everybody to say off the couch, but people are laughing. But you have to be concerned. They're just rotating anybody in there with injuries. And they are flat out not good enough up there. They're not getting a push in the red zone, not getting a push on those short distances. There's miscommunications up there. Obviously, Daniel Jones dealing with the injury, but again, that's a winnable game with your backup in, and you still time mismanagement, not managing the clock well, and not being able to get a push from your line even in those moments. Flat out, just not good enough. And go from coach of the year to having to deal with that. You can certainly see the frustration, and I'm not sure what the future is going to be for the Giants moving forward, considering the fact that you paid Daniel Jones all that money, and I don't think he's ever going to be able to outperform what they don't have in talent. So I don't know what the future holds for them, but certainly it's continuing to go down. And I didn't think it really could get any worse, but after watching that game Sunday night, I do think it is going, well, it has gotten worse, at least probably in the next couple weeks. Probably not going to be able to go down any further, but we shall see. Rounding it out with the 3 down is personally my team, and I'm not just biased in this because they lost overall, but I just think when you look at them and what they should be and what they could be, as opposed to what they are doing in a tale of 2 weeks, shutting out a Patriots team, which, again, I think shows just how bad the Patriots are. I think it just shows that they're just in a state of disaster to lose that badly to a Saints team that couldn't beat the Texans and C.J. Stroud. But we'll dig into all of it. And I think with the Saints, again, this shows us how bad it's been going for Bill Belichick too. The Saints are, I think, they're just they're going to be outcoached in every game. I mean, they're really just only going to be able to outplay teams that have to overcome their own coaching and overcome the team that they're playing. It's coaching. I don't see it any other way. Dennis Allen, 18-41 in his career now. I just think not cut out to be a head coach in this league. And their red zone rating is just awful. This is where I get into it. Pete Carmichael too, and I've talked about it in the past. The test of the creativity of an offense and play calling is your ability to make plays in the red zone. The red zone rating is terrible. Their touchdown percentage is below 50%, 43.75 to be exact. And that is even with the inflation of last week where they lit up the Patriots and were in the red zone often. And we're not stopping that red zone rarely ever. And what does it mean? It means there's zero creativity. You can lead an offense. You can have a top defense like they do. There's endless options there. There's Kendrick Miller. You'll have Jamal Williams back eventually. You have Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Taysom Hill. You have a $150 million quarterback in Derek Carr. You have a load of options, a host of options, and you're that bad in the red zone. It is absolutely ridiculous. The last 4 drives of this game against the Texans, they ended at the Texans' 27-yard line, 11-yard line, 15-yard line, and 24-yard line. And they came up with 3 points in those drives. It's ridiculous. The lack of creativity is ridiculous. There's no creativity there. The missed field goals, I'm not even, Groupie, that's one thing. But it's really not even on him. The pressure should be on. They should be scoring more in the red zone. So the more that he's going to be going up, the more he's going to be missing them. He's a young kid. You can't be putting that kind of pressure on that young kid. You just have to find a way to score more in the red zone, score more touchdowns. That's it. Bottom line, the end. And then on top of that, the pass protection is just non-existent. They're bottom 5. They're giving up 3.4 sacks per game. They've already gotten Derek Carr hurt once. They benched Penning. Then he came back in, and he looked terrible. Looks like a complete bust. So, drafting poorly is going to hurt too. But overall, I think the coaching staff, they couldn't coach themselves out of a wet paper bag at this point. And it's not on Derek Carr yet. It's not on him yet. You get paid the big bucks. You have to find a way to overcome this at some point. But you can only outplay bad coaching so much. And I think he understands that from his time in Vegas. But he finally has a good defense. He just doesn't have the protection. It's not just the fact that they can't block 4. It's that whenever they send pressure, Derek's just getting smashed. There's no checks. There's no creativity to work around it. They're putting him in positions where they can send 6, 7 and just force bad errant throws. Again, zero creativity. But their defense is solid. They're top 5 in total defense, 6th in scoring defense. Still, even with the offense being as bad as it is, not even being able to score 20 points most of the time. They're top 10 in turnovers, and they still have a positive turnover differential. So they can trend the right direction with all that. Again, it meets a lot of the criteria, but offensively, with the creativity and the lack of protection and blocking up front overall, no, it doesn't. You can't. That's not going to be any trend going forward. Again, this team with so much potential, I think, on the offensive side of the ball, and they have so much potential, obviously, defensively, but you're only going to be able to keep that defense together for so long. And, again, you pay the quarterback now where you're going to be able to move pieces around. You're not going to be able to. They are doomed. They are doomed because of coaching. And, again, they still might be able to sneak into the playoffs, but this is a team that should be winning the NFC South, and it should be not even arguable. But again, they're doomed to be outcoached. Carmichael and Dallas Allen are going to be outcoached in pretty much every game they go into, and that's the bottom line. So I don't even know who you can give play calling duties to. I mean, people are calling for John Gruden maybe to come in and call plays, and I would certainly be open to it as a Saints fan overall because they good Lord, do they need help. That could be it, but I don't know how soon they're going to make that move, if they're willing to break it up this early into a season. But I think it's proven over the last couple seasons that they just have zero creativity on offense. And they just don't have enough coaching going forward there. I mean, it shows you when you come off a big emotional win like that, you shut out a team, and then you come back out and you get beat by a rookie quarterback. I mean, I know it's on the road, and they were road dogs, but still, home dogs, but still, there's not enough there. Not enough there. Moving the personnel around the line. Penny was getting better. Then he looked terrible when he came back in because they needed him to come back in due to injuries. It looks bad overall. There's no pass pro. There's no creativity, and it's going to be a huge problem for them going forward. But that's it. 3 up, 3 down. We're going to close it out. So, thanks for tuning in. And once again, at Rufus Rundown, pretty much everywhere on social media. Posted on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It pretty much goes up anyway on my Snapchat as well, too. Also, with all my personal social medias will be linked down in the description below as well, too. We'll return to the airwaves once again this week, not only just on here, either Wednesday or Thursday before Thursday Night Football to react to Monday Night Football and the rest of the MLB playoffs that are going on. I'll be calling the Holy Cross men's soccer game. It's the pink game against Harvard, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. with George Bannister. And I also have volleyball this week as well, Friday night and Saturday afternoon, a little Saturday matinee of volleyball at Holy Cross on the call. Not once, not twice, but 3 times this week. So if you want to tune in on ESPN+, I'll be sharing out those leads as well. But until next